The emergency klaxon screamed through Station Kepler-7's xenobiology lab, their piercing wail echoing off the sterile walls as red warning lights bathed everything in an ominous crimson glow. Dr. Zenthak's 4 eyes dilated with terror as she watched the containment field flicker and die, releasing the creature they had been studying for the past 3 rotations. The Shadow Maw, as the research team had dubbed it, unfolded from its cramped holding cell like liquid darkness given form. 8 feet of rippling muscle and obsidian scales with rows of crystalline teeth that could cut through hull plating and claws designed for rending flesh from bone. Its 6 amber eyes scanned the laboratory with predatory intelligence, and a low rumbling growl emanated from its throat that made the Valerian scientist's exoskeleton rattle. "Containment breach in Lab 7. Dr. Zenthak transmitted through her neural implant, her voice breaking with panic. "The Shadow Maw is loose. Initiating emergency lockdown protocol." Around the lab, the other researchers, 3 Altarians, 2 Zentorians, and 1 hegemony observer, had frozen in place like prey animals sensing imminent death. Their various physiologies all responded the same way to apex predation: complete stillness, hoping against hope that they might avoid. Notice, all except 1. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lone human on the xenobiology team, looked up from her data pad with mild annoyance, as if the screaming alarms and escaped nightmare creature were merely interrupting her afternoon coffee break. She glanced at the Shadow Maw, which had now turned its attention toward the cluster of terrified alien scientists, then back at her work. "Oh, come on," she muttered, standing up from her workstation. "We're never going to get the neural mapping finished if everyone keeps panicking." The other researchers stared at her in disbelief as she walked, walked, directly toward the creature that every military database in known space classified as extreme threat. Avoid contact. "Dr. Chen," Dr. Zenthak hissed through her breathing apparatus. "Get back. The Shadow Maw is a Class Alpha predator. It will what?" Sarah interrupted, still approaching the creature with the casual confidence of someone heading to a vending machine. "Eat me. Look at it." The Shadow Maw had indeed noticed her approach, but rather than the aggressive posture it had maintained moments before, it had settled back on its haunches. Its 6 eyes tracked her movement, but its massive head tilted slightly to one side in what could almost be interpreted as curiosity. "It's not aggressive," Sarah continued, now standing barely 10 feet from the creature. "It's scared and confused. We yanked it from its natural habitat, stuck it in a box for 3 days, and poked it with instruments. How would you feel?" The EQ, Shadow Maw took a tentative step toward her, and the other researchers pressed themselves against the far walls of the lab. Dr. Renth, the Altarian team leader, began rapidly inputting evacuation protocols into his wrist computer. Sarah reached into her lab coat pocket and pulled out something that made the aliens question whether they were witnessing a complete mental breakdown. A sandwich. "You hungry, big guy?" she asked, unwrapping the earth-made delicacy. The aroma of cured meat, aged cheese, and fresh bread began to fill the air. "I bet they've been feeding you nothing but nutrient paste. That stuff's awful." The creature's nostrils, hidden slits along its elongated snout, flared as it caught the scent. The aggressive posture melted away entirely, replaced by something that looked remarkably like a massive scaled dog catching the smell of bacon. Sarah tore off a piece of the sandwich and tossed it gently toward the Shadow Maw. The creature caught it with surprising delicacy, its crystalline teeth barely making contact as it sampled the offering. For a moment, the only sound in the lab was the gentle rumbling that emerged from the creature's throat. Not a growl of aggression, but something closer to a purr. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Kellen, the Zentorian behavioral specialist. "The Shadow Maw is a solitary apex hunter. It shows no social behaviors, no domestication markers, no familiarity with seasoning," Sarah interrupted, offering another piece of sandwich. The creature had moved closer now, close enough that she could have reached out and touched its scaled hide. Earth discovered something a long time ago. Everything likes good food. Even the scariest predators become friends when you feed them right. She held out the remaining half of her sandwich, and after a moment of hesitation, the shadow maw gently took it from her hand. Its teeth never came close to her fingers, and when it was done eating, it settled down completely, lying on the lab floor like an enormous contented cat. "There we go," Sarah said, giving the creature's massive head a gentle pat. The shadow maw leaned into the touch, and that rumbling purr grew louder. "Just needed someone to treat you like a living being, instead of a specimen." The silence that followed was broken only by the gradual winding down of the emergency klaxons, as Dr. Zenthak finally remembered to cancel the alarm. The other researchers slowly peeled themselves off the walls, staring in amazement at the human, who had just tamed their most dangerous research subject with lunch meat and kindness. "How did you know?" Dr. Renth asked, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and scientific curiosity. Sarah shrugged, scratching behind what might have been the shadow maw's ears. "Experience. Humans have been making friends with dangerous animals for about 40,000 years. We turned wolves into dogs, wildcats into pets, and convinced some of the most aggressive species on our planet to let us ride them into battle. It's kind of our thing." She looked around at her colleagues, all of whom were still maintaining a respectful distance from the now docile creature. "The galaxy keeps trying to find the thing that makes humans special. Our technology, our adaptability, our stubborn refusal to quit. But maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe we're just the species that figured out how to make friends with monsters." The shadow maw chose that moment to roll over onto its back, exposing its armored belly in a gesture of complete trust. Sarah couldn't help but smile as she obliged the silent request for belly rubs. "Besides," she added, "has anyone actually tried talking to the things we're so afraid of? Most of the time they're just as scared of us as we are of them." As the lab slowly returned to normal operations and the research team began to process what they had witnessed, one thing became clear. The human approach to xenobiology was going to require some significant updates to their protocols. And perhaps, Dr. Zenthek thought as she watched Sarah share her afternoon apple with their former Class Alpha threat, that wasn't such a bad thing after all.